My name is Iris, and I am the head of growth of 2Tokens, and I will be your host for today. In the upcoming 1.5 hours, you will get to understand a bit more about the world of tokenization. We're going to discuss the digital economy. We're going to talk about tokens today, about the adoption of tokenization. So what is actually out there at the moment? Who is applying this technology? We're going to discuss the differences between tokenization and blockchain, different tokens, of course, and what are tokens. Again, we're going to talk about several use cases, and then Frank from Celebratix will tell you a little bit more about smart event ticketing. And then we have Carbify that will explain everything about trees in the form of NFTs. Let's get started. Alex is going to talk about the digital economy, tokens, and token adoption. He is the chairman of 2Tokens, and I would love to give this stage to you.
Well, thank you, Iris, and thank you all for being here. So, as you all know, 2Tokens started 5 years ago with the aim to help businesses and institutions in applying tokenization in their digital business models. And we do this as a non-for-profit foundation. And we do this all over Europe. So that's why this session is recorded in English. When we started this initiative, 2Tokens, people were confusing crypto and blockchain and DLT and Bitcoin and everything. And so we were asked, why don't you make a roadmap if a company wants to do something with tokens? And can we go to the next slide, Iris? And so if you look at that, yes, blockchain is technology, crypto is technology. Every hype cycle in technology, if you follow the Gartner hype cycle today, it's AI, it's quantum, there's a lot going on there, guys. But what's very important is that this is not new, right? These hype cycles in digitization have been going on at least throughout my career for the last 30 years, 40 years, ever since the first computers came to be. But what we should realize is that, yes, technology is only a means to an end, but digitization is, in English, means the process of taking something analog and making it digital. But in English dictionary, there's also such a thing as digitalization. And that includes not only the technology, but also new value models, how laws are applied, how businesses operate. And so digitalization is so much more interesting if we take a look at the digital economy as a whole. And to do that, we need stuff like AI, like blockchain, like tokens. But in it by itself, it's interesting for technical people to really go into what is a blockchain and how does it work. And no, what's more interesting is how do we apply it to the digital economy? Can we have the next slide? And so if you look at that, this is a very interesting word, guys. Effective accelerationism. This is a real word. If you see all these things coming together, and it's abbreviated as EACC, look it up on Wikipedia. But if you see all these movements coming together, whether it's the internet, whether it's 3D printing, look at all these developments. They are accelerating today, right? And one specific segment in itself is interesting, but if you combine them, it's even more interesting. And so if you look at what that does to the economy, we will have new paradigms, and every 30, 40 years, that is what happens. And so we can, should we be afraid of effective accelerationism, or should we embrace it? That's a good question. And so that is what we see here. Yes, it's interesting to go deep into certain technologies, but what's a lot more interesting is, next slide, please, is how do we get to new business models? How do we see society change as a whole? So we see that the web, as we know, ever since it was introduced in the early 90s, we're now going, from Web 1 to Web 2, we're going to Web 3, but the web now is going to whole new ways of working, of being less fragile, something that we can't kill, something that is open, and that asks people to participate in new ways in businesses, and also transfer value in new ways. This is what Web3 has to offer. So we have new business models, new ways of operating, and that is coming at us. And next slide, please. And that is what makes this interesting, because if you look at the centralized Web 1 and Web 2 worlds that we've come to know in the last 30 years, we pretty much know what we can do there, and we see the advantages and we see the disadvantages. Web 2 is what got us Google, what got us Facebook, what got us the big Amazons of the world. And what we've been working on in the last decade is the transition to Web 3, which is decentralized, peer-to-peer exchange, or machine-to-machine communication. This is the promise. And if we are going to a digital economy, it's going to be built on Web 3. Next slide, please. And so if we want to go to adoption, if you want to have adoption of Web 3 in the digital economy, what does that mean? Does that mean we have to look at all the new apps and all the new technical development? Yes, we need to do that too. But for adoption, it's more important that we look at the end user value. How do we remove friction? How do we implement something that makes life easier for the average citizen and consumer out there? How do we add security or privacy? All types of value that people are interested in. Next slide, please. And you might ask, so how does that affect two tokens? Well, with two tokens, we were never really interested in the underlying blockchain or the underlying DLT. Yes, we do have those technology discussions, and we do masterclasses, and we go in deep. And oftentimes people confuse crypto with tokens, right? Yes, crypto is a token, but a token doesn't have to be crypto. And what you see is that there's a lot of people that didn't realize this, and we have to educate everybody, and this is a generational thing. Next slide, please. Because if we want to truly implement decentralized systems, and if we really want to have everybody involved, we need to develop new methods and standards that create those new services and solutions in a decentralized way. And we can only do that in the different sectors if we involve the different stakeholders. And this is not just technology. This is also legal, regulatory. This is also working with the entrepreneurs. This is working with the fintech people, with the financial people. This is working with the people who create the laws. Only then can you work on solutions that integrate, in society as a whole, in the economy. And that's what we, as Two Tokens, work on. We are not a think tank. No, we want to do things. We are a do tank. Next slide, please. And to do that, we work with the governments. We work with the European Union Commission. We work with the universities. Thanks to all the universities, we have this session here. And but not only that, we do workshops, we do masterclasses with them. And of course, we work with industry. We work with the businesses out there who want to implement. And I'm not just talking businesses who just started in this. No, also businesses who've been around for maybe 100 years, who have to rethink the way they do business. They have to rethink how they work in multi-stakeholder systems. And And that is what we as 2Tokens work on. Next slide, please. And if you look at all these sectors where tokens are used, there's many, tokens in many industries. One are more, closer to adoption, and such as the trading and investment and the fintech and payment and banking. They've been using tokens for many years, because let's face it, tokens by itself are new. Tokens go back to the Romans, right? But digital tokens, that's a whole different ballgame. It gives new solutions, it gives new possibilities and new opportunities. And if we are going to use decentralized infrastructure, then we need tokens, and we need to implement those tokens in all these different sectors and industries. Next slide, please. And what is the next slide? Is there a next slide? I think there's a next slide. Yes, there's a next slide. So as an example, for instance, because that's how we work at 2Tokens, we work in specific sectors. One of our working groups, one of our use cases is the energy sector. And the energy sector is a very interesting sector, because we need to change it. Because if we don't, we can't accomplish what we want to do in terms of the energy transition. And so in our working group, we call the working group the power of the many. We have worked on new business models on how consumers become prosumers, and how shared ownership, or it's a fractional ownership of solar panels, can be implemented using tokens. Next slide, please. And this sharing of energy solves a great need in society today, because if we are going to go to green energy, if we are going to go to decentralized ways of creating energy, and if we want to share that decentralized energy in a democratic way, so that everybody has access to green energy, so that everybody can have access to their own panels or windmill and share that kilowatt hour, we need to create models that allow for peer-to-peer energy exchange. And this is one example, one sector where we implement tokenization. And if you do this, you not only have to work with the business, you don't have to work with the industry and the grid owners. No, you also have to work with the legal regulatory people. Because what is a security? Is it a security token? Is it a utility token? Can we do this? What do the regulators like the AFM or the central banks think? This is something that we all have to take in consideration. So this whole tokenization is a multidisciplinary game. And next slide. And that is what we all work on. And so we don't only do this in the energy sector, we also do it in finance. How can you tokenize an invoice? You might ask, why would I want to tokenize an invoice? Well, if I am an entrepreneur and I have revenue and I want to have my revenue financed, I might want to tokenize, turn that invoice into a token, so that somebody else might want to provide that financing. Or what about a digital notary, that you can create your online company, and at the same time you have not just shares, but you have tokens. So all these use cases are in fact working today, and we invite you to join them. And I think this is the last slide.
Thank you very much, Alex. In the meantime, I'm having a look if someone has a question for Alex. I've seen a question that came in about if the slides will be available afterwards, and yes, we will share the slides with you. So there is a question coming in. Do you also have partnerships with real estate businesses?
So the real estate industry is really looking at how can you tokenize a building, or how can you create a fractional ownership in real estate. And that is the promise from day one, real estate, but it is also one of the most difficult one when it comes to legal regulatory, because we have laws, and in the law it says that if you want to tokenize, or if you want to divide a building into multiple pieces, you need to register that in a central depository. But yes, we are looking at real estate projects, and but we don't have a working group yet, I should say.
I also remember, so with 2tokens, we host masterclasses as well. And I remember one of our participants was from DiviRent, and they were focusing on tokenizing, or actually sharing a little part of a building that you rent. So to make it possible for people who are not able to buy a house themselves, so just by renting it, every time you rent your renting house, you slowly, piece by piece, you start owning a little piece of that building. Afterwards, we will share a what's next document with all of you that contains all resources, and I will also add that one to it so you can have a look. Alex, have you heard of PropChain? It's a question coming in.
Yes, PropChain is a known solution, and it's a good infrastructure, and but it's focused for the most part on the United States. If you look in Europe, at Europe, property law and tokenization, there's still some hurdles that need to be taken in, and so I don't think PropChain has any traction as of yet in Europe. But I know PropChain. We are in one of our masterclasses. We also have an example of an exchange where real estate is traded using tokenization, and they are setting up shop in Europe. But I know PropChain, yes.
All right. Any more questions? Otherwise, we're slowly. Nice. You're welcome, Koen. And we're slowly moving to the next speaker of today. Then I would like to give the stage to Frank Roskam, the co-founder of Celebratix. Celebratix introduces an innovative approach to event management by leveraging their blockchain technology. And they were also the winner of the Dutch Blockchain Week last year. So again, congratulations on that for the best.
Thank you very much, Iris.
It's a startup. So we would love to hear more about you. So Frank, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I will do that. Thanks. And I think you'll all see my screen now as well, which I'll share now in bigger screen. Thank you, Oliver, as well, for the nice way of explaining tokenization. I'll try to basically build on what you've already said, and take it from there to really show the real life use case. Iris also mentioned we won the Best Newcomer Award last year, 2023, and we're part of the 2tokens ecosystem. So what Celebratix does is we try to aim, we really make sure that we have the NFT ticketing component for events live. So the way ticketing happens now is you're working with fraud sensitive ticketing, which is in the form of PDFs, right? There are static barcodes. There's a lot of bots and scalping, an antiquated secondary market. An example of this is TicketSwap, which most of you will be familiar with. They actually were sued end of last year for really reselling these tickets, but still having these fraudulent tickets in the ecosystem. This also means that there's no traceability. So if you were to buy a PDF ticket and you share it with somebody else, then the event organizer wouldn't know who that person is, which is a shame because you cannot retarget them or send them other marketing activities. Also, there's no digital collectibles, which is a personal preference, but digital memorabilia is very important as well. And what Celebratix aims to do is really create 100% secure tickets through NFTs. It also means that there's no bots and scalping more available. So for example, the ticket swap for the Taylor Swift incident wouldn't have been possible. There's now interoperability of these assets, as well as 100% traceability through blockchain technology. and it increases the amount of digital collectibles through digital memorabilia. We started this end of 2022. I co-created Celebratix with Hans Jochem Dijk, who is the owner of, for example, Oranje Bloesem Festival. Last Saturday, they did 35,000 people in Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam. And my tech co-founder is Guy Rombout, who is the ex-CTO of Bitfavo. And now we're very proud to have a bit larger team and office in Amsterdam, and really taking this one step further. So just to add on what Oliver was already saying, but I will not go in depth that much because he knows it way better than I do. But to quickly give you a summary of how it works. So let's say that you go to Chicago Social Club, which is a nightclub in Amsterdam. They were one of our first customers, and Iris buys a ticket. Then Iris goes to their website and she requests a transaction. A block representing the transaction is then created, which is validated by the nodes in the blockchain network, which for us is Solana, because we're built on Solana, and they also invested in us in our most recent investment round. And once the node validates their transaction, the miner is then rewarded in the cryptocurrency, which is $SOL in this instance. The block is added to the existing blockchain, updated in the network, and then Iris receives the ticket. Important to tell that this is obviously seconds work, right? So within seconds, she receives the ticket, and we also do the complete on and off ramp of these tickets, which means that Iris is actually able to pay with Ideal, credit card, any of the sorts. Exactly, big party time. On the right, you see some of the events we work with, but I think it's more interesting to dive into a couple, in our case, nightclubs. So some of you who go out and party in Amsterdam are familiar with the Jimmy Woo or maybe the Chicago Social Club. If you go to their websites now, you can see that they're live with our solution, and they all have this very cool changing QR code, which I thought would also be fun to just show on the big screen. So if you go to our website, you see all the events that we sell tickets for, and then if you want to buy if you bought a ticket, they show up in your wallet. And then you have the NFT, and every 3 seconds, the QR code rotates, which enables 100% safety. And notice how we don't talk about blockchain NFTs or Solana, Web3, anything of the sort, because it's just irrelevant for the end user. Iris knows a lot about the blockchain and tokenization by chance, but more than 99% of the people who go, they don't really care whether it's a PDF or an NFT, as long as it's safe, simple, and secure. So we try to refrain from saying a lot about that. And then, if you want to follow more about what we do and how we do it, that we have a waiting list on the website. So make sure to check that out because there's more information there as well. I can talk on and on about this, but I think it's also good to keep it a bit brief. And then in a closing note, we're going to give away some free tickets to some of the events we host. So if you want, you can stay up to date on that through our Instagram channel. If you scan this QR code, which is a static QR code, not a changing one, so that's a bit of a bummer, but it's gonna work anyways. It's gonna bring you to the Instagram straight away. Stay up to date, and I hope that provides some more information about what we do. So then I'll give back the floor to Iris for this minute.
Thank you, Frank. Very, very interesting. I hear Max Schuurman in the chat mentioning Get Protocol. I think that's from Guts Ticketing. And the POAP, the Proof of Attendance Protocol. You also might be interested in it. Like I'm sure you've heard about it. Maybe you want to share a bit of your insights about those platforms or the way that they do it, or how it aligns with Celebratix.
Yeah, 100%. So there are multiple companies trying to get the NFT ticketing part right. Guts is one of them. You also have Bump Ticketing in Germany or Seedlab NFT in London. But Guts is the only Dutch player in the Netherlands, as far as I'm aware of, at least. And they've been around since 2016. They've really focused on like very large events, and they've done that quite well. We're really approaching this from an event organizing point of view, launching with the relatively smaller events, so the nightclubs and let's say 1,000 people, and really trying to get the mass adoption in the sense of like we really do not promote the blockchain part that much, but just the underlying infrastructure makes it more efficient to purchase the tickets and solve the fraudulent problem. And in terms of a POAP is more something, a proof of attendance protocol, right? So once you've entered the venue, you can receive this POAP, which in my opinion is a bit redundant in the sense that you, already have this proof of attendance when you have the ticket as an NFT. So we basically combine a PDF ticket and a POAP into one, which could explain it. But it's super exciting industry, and there's a lot of innovation happening. So I'm very excited for what the future holds.
Thanks. And a question coming in from Alex van Dam. What is the upswing for outlets and clubs to start actually making use of these opposed to traditional ticketing systems?
Yeah. So in the traditional way, you work with a separate primary market, a separate guest list solution, and an external secondary marketplace. We combine them all into one solution. We don't do this through a centralized database, but decentralized, which enables the 100% safety. So it's both data as well as a revenue choice for them to start working with us in comparison to the status quo.
And what is the reason why you use non-fungible tokens compared to fungible tokens? There's a question coming in from Ivan.
Yeah, for us that makes sense. Like we chose Solana because they are the best ecosystem partner, and we specifically chose the NFT component because we can leverage compressed minting. So we don't need to create a full NFT, but leverage the compressed part to send out the tickets, which is a more efficient way of handling the transactions.
Thank you so much. Let me see what Marika is saying.
She went to Paradiso yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we're in talks with Paradiso, Marika. So if you can put in a good word for us, that would be awesome.
Thanks. All right, Frank, if you stick a bit with us and see if there's more question coming in, I see from Koen, maybe you can ask it via the chat, because we need to continue with our next speaker, which is Jaap from Carbify. Carbify is a very revolutionary platform dedicated to simplifying and optimizing low carbon living. And they don't talk about carbon credits, but carbon debits. And they tokenize like little trees ecosystems and also add the element of gamification to it. Very interesting. And I'm very much looking forward to your presentation, Jaap. I've seen it already a couple of times, but every time it's very exciting to hear your story again. So I'm very happy to share with everyone who is joining today. Yeah.
There we are. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Jaap, and I'm curious to see if my voice will handle this because it was on vacation for a week. But let me start with I'm a father of two. I'm 48 years old, live in the north of the Netherlands, and indeed I'm the co-founder of Carbify. Let me briefly, so I only made 3 slides or something, I guess.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. And before you continue, I think you're working on a massive laptop screen or like a desktop, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's
but
correct.
Your presentation is a little bit small for me. I don't know if there's people like joining on their phone, but maybe you can
well, maybe you can share it because I have no clue how I can resize this.
You can actually zoom in yourself if you're on Zoom. So that's fine. Please continue.
Oh, you can zoom in. Perfect. That's nice. Then I need to go back. Okay. Okay. Well, what we basically do is we plant agroforestry systems all around the world. And we sell trees because people easily understand what trees are. Agroforestry systems are a little bit more difficult. But agroforestry systems are ecosystems of several tree species, plants, ground cover, fruits, etc. combined. It's much more efficient compared to just planting the same tree over and over again. So now comes the blockchain part. We tokenize them. We call them NF3s. We sell these NF3s. And why do you want to buy these NF3s? Because they are actually helping against climate change. That's the second point, which is very important, additionality. I think you guys all read the news the last weeks, months. There's lots of news being shared about greenwashing all the time. And it all comes down to this one simple word. Most of the projects don't offer additionality. They just plant something that is being cut down a year or a few years later, or they use a methodology, for example, with tractors with lots of CO2 being inserted in the atmosphere. You have to subtract it from your gains, and this is what most projects are not doing. Anyway, what we created is basically the perfect system where you plant trees. You use the netto advantage of the CO2 being absorbed, and we also tokenize the CO2. It is called carbon debits. It was mentioned earlier. Because carbon debits are only being issued after the CO2 has been absorbed. So it cannot be sold or traded or issued before the CO2 has been absorbed, which is the standard nowadays, unfortunately. Most carbon credits are being issued for the next 20 years. So you just have to prove that your project is valid, it complies with certain rules and regulations, and then you will be credited for 20 years in advance, and you need to prove that the trees are still there over the next period, but it doesn't really help. We've all seen it in the news. So we just need to switch to a system that works more efficiently, which is more transparent, and this is where blockchain comes in. The transparency for a blockchain, if you handle the smart contracts in the right way, is unmatched. I think it was mentioned by Oliver earlier. He actually mentioned that the blockchain is a sophisticated a database. Sometimes I even mention that it is an Excel sheet, but an Excel sheet that cannot be changed in any way anymore. So if you compare the traditional carbon credit projects with Carbify, you can basically say that the traditional ones are using an administration held in Excel, so they can change the numbers if they wish. If you know what I mean, they can commit fraud. They can do whatever they want. They can sell multiple. They can sell a ton of CO2 like 5 times generated by the same trees. Everything is possible. We can't do that because we use the blockchain. We have the CO2 token. The CO2 token, and I will try to keep this very easy to understand. When we plant a tree, we geolocate it just by using a smartphone. We send the exact geolocation for the specific tree to our headquarters. We can mint the tree because one tree, one agroforestry system is backed up by an NFT. The geolocation is embedded in this NFT, so we can't change it. The CO2 that is being absorbed by this tree in real time is being administered by our ACO2 smart contract. This is also being done on chain, so everything is visible. You can check everything. For most people, that's not really easy to do. I totally understand that, but we offer some tools for this. But the most important fact is that the experts can judge us and check us whatever they want. It's all out there on a public chain. And this is basically how we are able to offer carbon offsets that really make a difference instead of the ones being sold right now. So this is an example of one of our trees. So we made a special image to create a more, well, game-like approach, because we also offer a game which is based on sustainability. If you own this NFT, you will automatically generate CO2 tokens, and you can sell it for real money. You can just sell it on our CO2, well, exchange is not really an exchange, but you can exchange the CO2 tokens for USDT or USDC. And this is what the companies will receive. If they choose to offset their emissions, they are awarded with an official certificate. Of course, it is backed by the United Nations Climate Change Foundation. So we are certified, although I always mention that certification is not really a big deal, because all the companies who committed fraud in the past, they were also certified, right? So yeah, what's really the meaning of this? I truly believe in transparency by blockchain. This is the only way we can solve the issues going on currently. And well, this was everything as fast as I could do, I guess. So that's it.
Thank
Maybe
you so much.
there are some questions.
I'm looking. There is one coming in from Shakti, but what if there is a forest fire?
Oh yeah, forest fire. Well, it sucks, of course, but it's not really a big deal for us because we plant everything in pairs. So if we plant an agroforestry system in the north of Brazil, we also plant one in the south of Brazil or in an other biome, and they back up each other. So and even if both systems don't survive, they can be backed up by our other backup sites. So I think someone has to throw a nuclear bomb on the Amazon rainforest in order for us to have a problem. That's basically it, and that won't happen.
Well, I think then everyone has a problem.
Yes, exactly.
And she's asking, or he's asking, one NFT is 2 trees?
One NFT is actually 4 agroforestry systems. It's a little bit complicated, but one is a backup, one is a staking tree, because we also offer yield. And one is a gaming tree. It is being used to offer prizes and rewards in our game.
Okay, but do you then have over collateralization? Someone asking, Dion asking in the chat.
Well, yeah, you could say maybe yes. We have lots and lots of agroforestry systems we don't need, but because the fact we are a carbon debit, we have to be very careful. We have to use a huge reserve owned by Carbify itself in order to prevent we are actually selling carbon credits. So we have huge reserves, and this is how we do it.
Nice. And you add the gamification element to it, right? Maybe you can elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, well, both me and Toby worked for a crypto gaming company for, well, 1 to 2 years before we started Carbify. We are gamers. Toby was actually a pro gamer in his younger years. So it just made sense that we wanted to create a game. It's called Eco Empires. It is based on tribal wars and Travian. Well, you can actually play the game if you want. You just need to join our Discord and ask us. The game is live. You can play it. We will launch it very soon together with a huge gaming-related crypto company. And well, as I told you, there are some sustainable elements in the game where you have to, it is basically one of the resources. So you can't just endlessly build troops, armies, and buildings without taking care of your footprint.
That's fantastic. We will also share the links to this in the What's Next document that we will share with you in the end of this meeting, presentation, event. Any more questions from the crowd? And if not, then I would love to give the word to SBAN. Yeah, thank you very much for giving a bit more insights in how tokens and blockchain can be used also in this sector, and that it can contribute tremendously to our future and the sustainability.